Hello guys and girls, ladies and gents. My name is Belinda and I will be presenting today's life science session on the nervous system, particularly the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Okay, before we begin, please make sure you can hear me. Okay, if you're struggling to hear me, please just write it in the question box. Okay, just let me know if I'm glitching or anything. Okay, please make sure your audio is on and your speaker volume is turned up and you can hear me clearly. Please also note that you are muted when joining the session, so I will not hear you. So the only way to communicate with me is via the question box. Okay, right. Again, we have uploaded the slides on the handout session just underneath the polls. Okay, and I've also uploaded some notes on the ear and the eye. Okay, you can download them. I will not be doing the ear and the eye today. Okay, you can do that by yourself at home as self-study. Okay, today we'll only be looking at the CNS, the central nervous system, and the peripheral nervous system. Right? Please ask questions and leave comments. Okay, there is no such thing as a stupid question. Ask away. All right. But you can only ask questions that are relevant to what we are doing today, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Please do not ask on content that we are not busy with today, and no inappropriate comments will be tolerated. So please, let's keep it nice, let's keep it simple and enjoyable, and let's make the best of this hour. Okay, if I don't get to answer your questions today, or if I didn't answer your questions today, please send an email to academics@impact.co.za, and then I will give you feedback on the questions as soon as possible. Okay, this recording will be posted on YouTube and you can go back and refer to it. Right, I'm just gonna give it a moment for attendees to join in and then we can begin with the work of today. While we wait, can everyone please raise their hands for me? Okay, I just wanna check if everyone can hear me. Please raise your hands. Raise your hands if you can hear me. Okay, let's just give it a few more minutes for all the attendees to join. Okay, please remember to download the slides on today's session and the notes. Okay, please download them. These slides and notes do not replace your textbook. Please use it hand in hand with your textbook, whatever textbook it is that you are using. Okay, use it as a supplement tool. Right. Okay, let's start. Okay, so these are the topics that you need to cover for this term. genetics, you need to cover monohybrid crosses. I know some of you have already done this last term. Okay, monohybrid crosses, sex-linked diseases, as well as sex-linked alleles. And then you need to do dihybrid crosses also this term, and you need to do mutations, genetic engineering, and DNA fingerprinting. Okay, this is all for the genetics section. Okay, and then you need to do humans' response to the environment. Okay, that will be the human nervous system, the human eye, and the human ear. Okay, and then also endocrine system and negative feedback mechanism. Okay, this is what you need to do, or that what you need to cover in the term. Okay, this together with your term 1 work will constitute the work that needs to be covered for June exams as well. Okay, not sure when you will be writing the June exams, but the communication will be sent by the Department of Education and parties involved on when we'll be writing June exams, or if whether we are going to be writing June exams or what's going to happen. So when we receive communication, we will definitely send it to you guys. Okay, but make sure you cover this work before the term ends, just so you are on track. All right. Okay. Okay. So we're going to be looking at the human nervous system today. Okay. So in order to survive, all animals must be able to respond to their environment. Okay, so in order for you to survive in a particular environment, you need to be aware. Your brain needs to be aware of what's happening around you. Okay, so if it's cold outside, you need to feel it so you can get a jersey, put it on, and be warm. Okay, if you were cut by a knife, or if there was a cut somewhere in your body, you need to feel it so you can go to the doctor and sort it out. Okay, otherwise, if things were happening around you and your body couldn't detect, it will not be able to respond. Okay, and if your body cannot respond to that, harm might come your way, and you can get hurt. So in order to survive, all animals must be able to respond to their environments. Okay, and the nervous system is the department of communication in your body. So it controls the communication that takes place between the environment, the external environment, the different parts of your body, and the brain. So the nervous system is the control of that communication flow. Okay. The mammalian nervous system is made up of the brain and the spinal cord, that is known as the central nervous system. Okay. We also have the peripheral nervous system, which is all the nervous tissue. So the nerves, the neurons, everything in the nervous tissue is part of the peripheral nervous system. So the mammalian nervous system is or consists of the central nervous system, the brain, and the spinal cord, and then the peripheral nervous system, which is the nervous tissue. Okay, your cranial nerves, your spinal nerves, and your ganglia. All right. Okay. Remember, if you have any questions, please use the question box and I will attend to them as soon as possible. Okay, either on the platform, on the webinar, or I will send you emails with the answers. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna wait for you guys. The handout section is under polls. on your right hand side. So we have the webinar Life Science Human Nervous System, and we have grade 12 notes. So we are working with or we are dealing with the human nervous system, the webinar, the PowerPoint slides today. I do apologize for my glitching, guys. Okay, can you please raise your hands if you were able to download the slides? I just want to see who wasn't able to download the slides. By a show of hands, please indicate if you are able to download the slides, because I see some of you were not able to download the slides, the PowerPoint slides. Okay, I see the hands are going up now. Okay, I see some learners have typed in the question box that they cannot download the slides. If you were eventually able to do it, can you please just indicate on the question box if you are eventually able to download the slides? Okay, I will email you the notes on genetics as well from last week. Okay. Okay, so some of you will try to download it after the webinar. Okay, so let's just work from my screen for now. Okay, right. Okay, let's carry on. Okay, so the central nervous system, we're going to start with the central nervous system, and then from there we're going to move on to the peripheral nervous system. Okay, as we have seen in the previous slide, the central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord. And for examination purposes, you need to know the structure of the brain, as well as the parts of the brain, as well as the functions of each part of the brain. Okay, you also need to know what the spinal cord assists with. Okay, so this is very important. The structure of the brain, the parts of the brain, as well as their functions, and the spinal cord as well. Okay, so this will be examined. Okay, it might be, might not. Okay, sometimes they examine you on the eye, sometimes the ear, sometimes the brain, sometimes both of them. So in any case, you must make sure that you know the parts of the brain and their functions. Okay. Okay, let's look at it. Okay, there we have our brain divided into two hemispheres, left and right hemisphere. Okay, that part over there, top part over there is known as the cerebrum. Okay, and then we have the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, which we will be working with mostly in the next topic, in the endocrine system, with the releasing of hormones. Okay, we'll be working with that mostly. Okay, but right now for this section, you need to know what the function of that is, but you will go into it into more detail in the next topic, the endocrine system. Okay, the next part of the brain would be your medulla oblongata. Okay, then we have the cerebellum, the thalamus, and the corpus callosum. Right, in the next slide, we will be looking at what role each part of the brain plays in the communication or in the flow of information in your body. Right? Okay, so the cerebrum is responsible for voluntary activities of the body. That is your judgment, learning something, studying for something, sensations from the external environment, from sense organs, tasting something, and so all the things that you volunteer to do, the cerebrum is responsible for. Okay. The medulla oblongata, however, controls the involuntary actions in your body. So while the cerebrum controls the voluntary activities in your body, the medulla oblongata controls involuntary actions in your body, like the heart rate, breathing, and swallowing, and blood pressure, all these things that you don't have control over. I mean, you don't have control over the fact that you are breathing. It's just happening. It's happening even now. You don't have control over it. It's involuntary. Okay, heart rate. Okay, swallowing also. Last year in grade 11, you've learned when you were doing the digestive system that in the esophagus, swallowing is done by a process called peristalsis, the contraction, the involuntary contraction and relaxation of muscles so that the food is passed down into the stomach. Okay, so all these involuntary actions are controlled by the medulla oblongata. Okay, and then we have the cerebellum. Let's just go back to see where that is. That part over there. Okay. It coordinates and balances the actions of the muscles. It coordinates and balances the balances of the muscles. Coordinates balance. Okay, remember guys, ask questions. If you want me to repeat something or if you couldn't hear me say something, please just mention it to me. I will keep on looking at the questions should I need to repeat something. Okay. Then we have the hypothalamus. Responsible for controlling thirst, sleep, and emotions. And the corpus callosum, which is the bridge between the right and the left hemisphere of the brain. Okay, so the cerebrum is responsible for voluntary activities of the body, whereas the medulla is responsible for involuntary actions. Cerebellum responsible for balance of the muscles. The hypothalamus controls thirst, sleep, and emotions. And the corpus callosum is the bridge between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. Right. So you need to be able to label the parts of the brain as well as give us the functions of each part. Okay, mainly this will be that you'll be required to know their functions. Okay, the spinal cords main function is it is the link between the brain and the rest of the body. Okay, so whatever that happens in the body, this spinal acts as a link between it and the brain. Okay, the peripheral nervous system. This is probably the part of the nervous system that has the most work. Okay. Okay, the peripheral nervous system consists of all the nervous tissue outside the central nervous system. So all the nervous tissue outside the central nervous system will be our peripheral nervous system. Okay. Peripheral system is made up of nerves that links the central nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord to the receptors and the effectors of the body. Okay, so the nerves link the receptors, the receivers of the information. It can be your skin, it can be your ear, it can be your whatever receptor you have on your body. The nerves will link that receptor to the central nervous system, to the brain, okay, which will register the information received and be aware of what's going on and respond if necessary. Okay. The peripheral nervous system is responsible for collecting information from the receptors and transmitting this information by way of impulses. Okay, by way of impulses along the sensory afferent neurons to the central nervous system. Okay, just take note, whenever I say central nervous system, I'm referring to the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, so the peripheral nervous system is responsible for collecting the information from the receptors along the sensory neurons in the way of impulses to the central nervous system. Okay, this is known as sensory function. Okay, the second function, known as the motor function of the peripheral nervous system, is the transmission of the impulses from the central nervous system by a way of motor neurons to the effectors to bring about an appropriate response. Okay, so basically the receptor will receive information from the environment or from your body. From there, the sensory and the afferent neurons will carry the impulses, the information. The impulses will be the information that the receptors have collected from the environment. These impulses will be taken to the central nervous system. From the central nervous system, the impulses that they have received will now be taken to the effectors, which decide how the body must respond. So it all depends on whatever information your receptors have collected. Let's say you were tasting something bitter. Okay, so the information that your receptor will then be your tongue, your taste buds. Okay, then they would have detected some bitter taste. Okay, this information will travel in the form of impulses to your brain. Okay, and it will mention to your brain that, listen, you have tasted something bitter. Then those impulses will go to the effectors, and then you'll respond. If you like bitter things, you'll be happy about it. If you don't, you'll obviously make a face or scream or whatever. So an appropriate response will be given depending on what information has been collected. Okay, now the nerve. So we've just looked in the previous slide that the peripheral system is made up of nerves. So now we'll be looking into more detail on what a nerve is, okay, and how it helps the communication process. Okay, so a nerve is an organ that contains neurons, which carry the electrical messages known as impulses from the receptors throughout the body to the central nervous system. So the nerve is an organ that contains the neurons responsible for carrying electrical messages known as impulses throughout the body. There's 3 types of neurons. Okay, we have the sensory neurons, we have the interneuron, and we have the motor neuron. Now, this is very important. You need to know the structure of each neuron type for examination processes. You may be asked to sketch and label it, or you can be given the structure and be asked to label the parts of that neuron. So this is very important for examinations as well, the structure of a neuron. Remember to follow correct procedures in drawing your structures. Always have an appropriate heading for your structure. Okay, if you are labeling it, make sure you use solid lines with pen. Make sure it's clear and visible. All right, you will be given marks on the caption, so you must always make sure that you caption it. Okay, so this will be examined. Okay, so let's look at the structure. I'm just going to look at the sensory neuron. It is made up of a cell body. Okay, you can see that a sensory neuron is different from a interneuron, and it's different from a motor neuron. Okay, here's our cell body here. And then here we have our cell body on the interneuron. And then our cell body is found there on the motor neuron. Okay, but that's our cell body there. It's very easy for you to miss it. Please just take note of it. Our cell body is here on the sensory neuron. Okay, it is made up of dendrites and axons. And internodes. Okay, let's look at what the function of each neuron is. What is each neuron responsible for? Remember here, the aim here is to get information that has been detected from the body or from the receptor organ to the brain so that we can respond to it. Okay, so let's see how their neurons help the process. Okay, I can see that that structure over there is not clear. Okay, but this is a nice diagram that shows what happens. So I'll try and clear it out to you. Okay. Okay, so it all starts with the sensory neuron. So the sensory neuron carry impulses from the receptors. Okay, the sensory neuron carries impulses from the receptors. Example would be your pain receptors in the skin. So the sensory neurons will carry it to the central nervous system. So that's what let me get a highlighter. The sensory neuron does. Okay. Let me just highlight that for you. So it carries impulses from the receptors to the central nervous system. Okay, then we have the interneuron that carries impulses from the sensory neurons from the sensory nerves to the motor nerves. Remember, we said in the beginning that the peripheral system has two functions, the sensory function and the motor function. Okay, so this interneuron will get our messages from the sensory function to the motor function. Okay, where it will be taken to the effector to bring about movement or a response. Okay, here they've mentioned at length to bring about a secretion of a hormone. And we will look at that when you do the endocrine system next. Okay, particularly one that you might be familiar with would be the breaking down of converting glucose into glycogen. So we will look into that next time. But an example would be if you have just eaten a lot of cake or sweets or whatever, it will raise your sugar levels. Okay, and your body needs to always be in balance. Your sugar levels cannot be too high and they cannot be too low. So basically, if your body detects that you have a lot of sugar, it's going to cause the pancreas to secrete a hormone known as insulin that will start converting that excess sugar into glycogen to be stored in the liver and be used if you've got little sugar sometime. Okay, if you find yourself not eating, or if you go on a diet and you're not taking a lot of sugar, that glycogen that's stored in your liver will be converted into glucose as and when your body detects that you need sugar. Okay, so the motor neuron will then be responsible for carrying the impulses from the interneuron to the effector to bring about a response. All right. If you'd like me to repeat that, please just type it in the question box. Okay, otherwise, if you have a question, just type it there and then I'll get back to it. If you've got questions, guys, please. Sorry. Okay, sorry about that. I'm trying to locate the question box. Oh, there it is. Okay, if you need me to email the slideshow, just send an email to impact academics@impact.co.za. If you couldn't download the slides, we will gladly email them to you. We will gladly send those notes, even the notes on genetics. If you did not receive them, we will send them to you via email if you couldn't download them. Okay, moving on. Okay, so we have said in the previous slides that the body needs to know what's happening. The body always needs to know what's happening. Okay, I'm gonna erase all the drawings there. The brain always needs to know what's happening, in your body. But sometimes your body requires a very quick response. So this means your body will respond to a message, or it will respond to something before the brain even knows about it. Sometimes there is a need for that. So this thing happens so quickly and your body needs to respond automatically without the brain even knowing about it. This action is known as the reflex action. It's a fast automatic response by an effector of an organ, like a muscle, to a stimulus received by a receptor organ. Just to repeat that again, the reflex action is a fast automatic response by an effector to a stimulus received by a receptor organ. So your body will automatically respond before the brain even knows what's happening. Okay, who can think of examples of reflex actions? If you can think of any example of reflex action, okay, just out of interest, I would like to know what reflex actions you guys know. Can you please send it on the question box? Reflex actions that you know before we start. Guys, when you send questions, just make sure that it's clear. For example, someone asked, what about complex sugars? What about them? Okay, so just write a full question so that I can be able to answer it properly for you. Okay, somebody said hand on hot plate. Yes, that's correct. When you get burned, yes. Gag reflex. Yes, bending your finger on a candle, moving away when something gets hot, sneezing when something enters the nasal passage, accidentally bending your hand and flinching away when you bend your hand on a stove and pull away quickly, when you touch a hot stove, when the doctor hits your knee to test your reflexes, yes. Somebody said not really. Okay, I don't know what that is. Okay, oh, you don't know reflex. Okay, that's fine. Catching a utensil as it falls off the counter could be. You don't need to know how to draw the reflex arc, but you must be able to label it. Okay, you must be able to label it and you must know the functions of the parts of the reflex arc. Okay, thank you for your responses. I love them. Okay. Could a reflex involve flight or fight? That's an interesting question. Somebody asked, could a reflex involve flight or fight? Because some people punch people and their response would be, okay, that was my reflexes. I did it without thinking. Is that a reflex? Do you guys think that is a reflex? Please leave your comments. Okay, please leave your comments. Is fighting, slapping someone before thinking a reflex? Okay, this is the structure of a reflex arc. So basically all reflex arc has 5 essential components. We have the receptor, e.g. the skin. We have the sensory neuron, we have the connector neuron, and we have the motor neuron, because all these neurons help in transmitting the information that the receptor has detected. Okay, and then we have the effector. Please take note of how we do not have the central nervous system. So normally to respond in between the motor neuron and the effector, we have the central nervous system, we have the brain. In this case, we go from motor neuron all the way up until the effector. Okay, so the brain does not know that you have responded. Only after it has happened will your brain register that, oh, okay, this and that happened. Okay, with that being said, I want to task you guys to research on why is it that people are not allowed to drink or take a lot of alcohol when they are driving. Okay, how is it related to the reflex action, or how is it related to the coordination of the human body in general? Please go and do some research on that. Why is alcohol not allowed to be taken when you are driving? Okay, also look at the effects of drugs, different drugs on the nervous system. Okay, and also again, by yourself, please look at the diseases of the nervous system. Okay, I didn't include them in the slides, but please go over your textbook. It's knowledge. Knowledge is power. Okay, so go into your textbook and look at the diseases of the nervous system. I did not include them in the slides. All right, so the receptor will respond to the stimuli and then start to generate impulses, which will be carried by the sensory neuron to the connector, and from the connector to the motor neuron, which will then take it to the effector for a response. Okay, it will eventually get to the brain, because your brain will eventually know what happened, and it's only a matter of seconds until you realize what had happened. Okay, it's a fraction. There's a totally small fraction in between you responding and the brain registering what had happened. Right. Okay, that's a nice diagram on the reflex arc as well. Okay, so we have a stimulus, and we have pain receptors that detect the stimulus, which is the pinprick. This is if they're testing you for sugar or whatever it is that they're testing you for. Okay, if you have, yeah, sugars would be the perfect example. Okay, from there, the pain receptors will create impulses that will be carried by the sensory neurons into the motor neurons, and then your response will be to withdraw the finger. You will withdraw the finger. You'll quickly withdraw the finger. From there, yeah, from there the impulses will be carried to the brain, and the brain will know what's happening. Okay. Okay, I've also included some other examples of the reflex action. Okay, this can be asked as a subtopic in your section C in your essay questions. So please make sure you understand the reflexes and how they work, because it can be asked as a subtopic in your essay question. Okay, so normally those points will give about 7 to 10 marks. All right. Again, if you've got questions, please type them in the question box. Okay, a student said they couldn't hear. Did you not hear the whole session or just a part of it? If it's just a part of it, can you please quickly just type which part it was so I can go back and do it again? If you couldn't hear me on a certain section, please just let me know which part it is so I can quickly go back and do it again before our time is up. It's not possible not to have a reflex arc, but sometimes your body responds a lot slower than it's supposed to be, mainly because it has been altered. The systems in your bodies have been altered by something that you have taken, maybe a drug or alcohol or whatever. But your body will always try to be on survival mode, okay, when it needs to be. Are pain receptors linked to the nerve endings, or are the impulses carried straight to the CNS during a reflex action or during a normal communication? Can you please just clarify on that? Are you asking with regards to the reflex action? Okay. Okay, I'm just going over the questions. Please use this time to type in any question that you might have. If you couldn't hear me in any section, please let me know now so I can go back and okay, I will give a breakdown of what is important in this section just now. Just give me a moment. Okay. So basically, first of all, the structures are very important in this section. So you need to know the structure of the brain, the parts of the brain as well as their functions. This is very important. Okay, terminology is always important in life sciences. So you need to be able to define certain things. Okay, they like asking this particularly in section A, where they give you a statement and you need to give one word for it. So you need to know definitions. You need to know what a nerve is, you need to know what a neuron is, you need to know what an impulse is. Okay. The structures again of the neurons are very important. You must be able to sketch it as well as label it and know what their functions are. The reflex action, very important as well. Okay, so the brain, the brain structure, the reflex arc, the structure, the neurons structures, very important in this section. You will be given, you might be given one or two of those structures to label. So that's very important when you are preparing for the examinations. Also, with the eye and the ear, those structures, the ear, very important. You need to know the structure of the ear. You need to know the structure of the eye. Okay, you won't be necessarily be asked to to draw it, but you must be able to label it, and you must know the functions of each part of the eye and the ear. Okay, also very important in hearing, how balance is maintained. Okay, that's very important, maintaining balance. You will find that in the hearing section, the hearing part of the section, also found in the notes. Okay, they also love essay questions on hearing as well as maintaining balance. Okay. Yeah, but please use this notes and your study guides just to make sure that you do not miss anything. Also, I'd advise that you guys download the CAPS document online. Okay, so it's a very good tool to use because it states exactly what you need to know for your exams, what they will be examining you on. So you can find all this information on the CAPS document. Okay, so you can use it before you even begin a topic. They will give you your learning objectives. What is it that you need to know for the exams? So the CAPS document is found on the Department of Education website, or you can just go on to Google, type in Life Sciences, FET CAPS document. Okay. So it will tell you exactly the things that you need to know for your examinations. All right. The email address for questions is academics@impact.co.za. The next session is next week. We will be looking at the endocrine system. If there's time left next week, I will also show you how to answer essay questions. Okay, in next week's sessions, we'll also look at an essay question. Okay. The structure of the nerve, of the neurons. Okay, the structure of the neurons, you need to know those. Structure of the neurons. Remember, the neurons are found in the nerve. Okay, so that's what we're interested in, the structure of the neurons. Gray matter versus white matter is also important. Okay, I don't think I included it in the slides. Please go do a reading on your textbook on that. Gray matter versus white matter, very important. Spelling does not count in life sciences. Do not worry yourself much about spelling. It must not mean something else in life sciences. So it can be wrong. However, it should not mean something else in life sciences. Because if you refer to something with something that already exists in life sciences, it will be considered a wrong answer because we will take it as though you don't know the correct answer. So spelling does not count. You will not be penalized on wrong spelling. However, it must not mean something else in life sciences. It can mean something else elsewhere in English, but it must not mean the same something else in life sciences. Okay. I hope I was able to give you a bit of information and shed a bit of light. Okay, I will be sending you feedback on all the questions. Okay, you can also ask me, send me questions via email. Do I have a PhD? No, I don't have a PhD. I'm working on that. Anyways, enjoy the rest of your day, guys. It was nice having you. See you next week. Bye.